Cho'Gath has kind of snuck his way in sometimes, depending on who he's banning. Now, Fnatic taking a page out of the LCK book and removing the Kalista. Also because Hansama, as we just talked about, got that first pick Kalista beforehand and actually managed to solo carry the game.
Yeah, it kind of is interesting that that's one of the few things that we see different in Misfits lineups is whether they put Hansama on a utility carry like Varus or he gets off on Kalista.
It's not like 5 other AD carries, it's like Kalista or Varus. Which one will he get to play? Now that Kalista is banned, Caitlyn is open as a first pick. Do they want to invest that first pick for Hansama? We know Rekkles will play it right now. Many people consider Caitlyn the strongest champion in the game.
And he gets it. That'll be the first Caitlyn pick for Hansama in this split as well. We'll see what he's able to do with it. But Fnatic quick to snap up the Orianna and the Elise on the other side.
That's always what you know. When you leave a pick like Caitlyn open, it's a little bit of a bait. You want some big picks on your side. On your screen right now down the bottom, you see what we consider a bit of the ideal team comp for Misfits. Now, it doesn't have to be just Maokai, but we're looking at that kind of tank jungler as an example. Of course, if you look at Jarvan top lane, it's a key pick for Alphari because he's able to actually join his team so often and just skirmish with them. He doesn't have to rely on pure split push. He can actually be impactful when it comes to flanking, and he's getting the Jarvan now, unless maybe it goes to the man in the jungle.
Yeah, I want to be another tanky pick for him as well. And yeah, it's like we said, this is what they like to play all the time, but they don't have all the same exact tools available since the Kalista, the Thresh is banned. That bottom lane's definitely going to look different. And of course, we can't forget PoE's signature Syndra, but this time looks like he's opting into the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, also Orianna being taken away. Fnatic basically said Syndra and Orianna are the two main picks for PowerOfEvil, the two control mages that kind of fit that style. Removing both of them to give Caps the upper hand. Orianna's always been fine against Cassiopeia. Actually, people used to, in the past, counterpick Cassiopeia with the Orianna specifically. So I think Caps is happy with the matchup in the mid lane. PowerOfEvil might have to rely on some jungle assistance to do a whole lot. But that's also an Elise on the other side, Pyre. So who's going to win the jungle matchup? It's Fnatic.
Yeah, and Broxah's looked like a monster on this Elise in his LCS career thus far. We can't really take that away from him. It's not like it's one of those picks that you feel obligated to take just because it's powerful and it's there. But he's already shined on it. Now we enter ban phase 2, and I'm curious what else comes off the board here with Fnatic. The seconds ticking down. They remove the Trundle.
Okay, take away the Trundle. One of the reasons is support Trundle is extremely good against low mobility AD carries. AShe, of course, can't really escape the pillar once it gets put behind her, and then potential Jarvan gank or something like that happens, and AShe will die. Fnatic, though, again, as we highlighted with the Elise, one thing I really like in this meta is when you draft strong team fight, but you put in at least one element of early game. And here it's a champion specifically. Elise brings you that early game element. And also, if you look at some of the lanes, Orianna is just an all-around strong champion, both early game, mid game, and late game. So you can gank the mid lane pretty easily, and it's fine to get kills on Orianna. That's a good investment. We don't even know the top lane pick yet for sOAZ. If that is something like a Renekton, maybe, well, just got banned away, so I guess Misfits didn't want to play against that Renekton. But if it had been, you know, you could also have kept that lane with the Elise, and there should be enough options for Broxah to have an impact.
Absolutely, and now on Fnatic's side, they ban away the Bard as well, so they're focusing on the support role. And Misfits, will they keep focusing up towards the top? No, it's support. Again, Taric is off the board. Yeah,
we often see Tahm Kench come in, and then people don't want to play like Bard. Also, people want to play Bard against Tahm Kench. Could have been one of the reasons for the ban here, but I think they're just kind of trying to eliminate playmaking supports for IgNar with the Bard ban. There's still Alistar available for him, which would be fine to pick, and they just have that as a monster in team fights.
And this is another reason why Fnatic wanted to ban the Trundle away, because they pick up the Braum to complete that Philiordi in bot lane, and we've already seen what Trundle can do, and he starts to steal them stats away. Misfits, for their answer, well, it is the Maokai, in fact, so we've got a few of those pieces already in there for Misfits, and a few changes slotted in as needed.
I'm expecting it to be jungle Maokai with Jarvan top lane, just based on the players. Alphari is the big Jarvan player, and of course, Maxlore's played a lot of Maokai already. IgNar, sadly for him, needs to settle for a defensive support. Most of the time. Obviously, you can be very aggressive with the Tahm Kench ulti, but in team fights, you're not a big engage tool very often. It is mainly used to sit back and use Devour to save someone. And IgNar loves to be in the big playmakers. But there are some things you can do with Maokai and Tahm Kench ulti we can mention in-game.
Yeah, we'll worry about that once we get into it. Fnatic, they still have 5 seconds, and they decide to lock in the Gnar for sOAZ. We'll see how he ends up doing in lane up against Alphari. sOAZ has definitely had pretty solid time post-Rift Rivals in his performance.
I think actually all split long.
Yeah, that's true.
Great for sOAZ. I think
just forget about Rift Rivals, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. We can definitely do that as European fans. I think even at Rift Rivals, actually, sOAZ played well. He's just had like a very, very good split. He talked about it week 1 after they came back from the boot camp. He was saying, you know what, it's summer split, it's more serious now, time to really focus here and actually try and get as good as possible. And I think sOAZ he's managed to achieve that in this split. He's no longer just a supportive top laner, he's actually able to play different carries.
Yeah, and you got to give him some credit. I mean, he's one of the most, actually the most veteran player in the European LCS. He's been around for so long at this point.
Yeah.
You have to think him having some variety has to definitely come out there, and he's shown that he's definitely not a one-trick pony.
I mean, there's 2 players that can kind of think of right now who's been active as long. You know, it's sOAZ and xSpecial from North America. I think maybe someone like Froggen, you know, comes in as a 2nd place nearby, but sOAZ was in a Season 1 World Championship. Lost it.
Yeah. Before they called it the World Championship, just the championship.
Just a championship.
We had a world
that's true, yeah, that's true. It was just a championship.
Yeah. Well, Fnatic, they might be gunning for it once again. They find themselves solidly at the top of the pack in the European LCS, but Misfits are coming to challenge that title. If they can knock off the old Kings, make a solid state for themselves, looking to head into those playoffs. But Fnatic, they just want to hold on as long as they can and as strong as they can. Will they be able to do it? The crowd is always hype when Fnatic is on the Rift, but I see some Misfits fans in that audience as well. Let's see how it all shakes out as we get on to Summoner's Rift.
I've noticed that this split, we've actually had quite a lot of cheers for Misfits as well. Let's see this game though, Pyro, because Fnatic's early game with that Elise is scary and something you have to respect. Like, so many teams just ban Elise every time because they don't want to deal with that snowball potential, often based on her just like going top lane, tower dive. Instantly, your top laner gets a big advantage, and I want to see what Broxah can do in a game like this.
Fnatic are a team that, honestly, not just in the standings, have proven in their execution that they are a cut above everybody else. Like, even with the Rift Rivals results, you got to throw that out the window because they have not lost a series since it was against Rocket. The only one that they lost several weeks ago.
Classic Rocket.
And last week, they lost their first game in a long time against Unicorns of Love, so that's also classic. But Fnatic, I mean, they've just been consistently dominating the pack in Europe.
Yep, and after they learned a harsh lesson at Rift Rivals, they adapted. Different play style coming in, obviously.
I don't remember seeing an Alawi there, though.
No Alawi. No split pushing AD carry right now, player.
Well, that's another thing. Fnatic, they've made changes. They've gone back to, well, I wouldn't say back. They've gone to what everyone else understood to be standard. For the longest time, we had Rekkles sitting on side lanes on the Kennen.
Yep. And
it got figured out by those NA teams, and then the European teams didn't get a chance to take advantage of that knowledge because Fnatic changed it up.
It's true, and one of the big things that happened during Rift Rivals was Fnatic's bottom lane would just get like punished so hard. It also happened in Europe where they wouldn't win the 2v2 lane. Right now, though, after Rekkles has gone back to the more standard AD carries, Varus, AShe, Caitlyn, these kind of picks, notice the difference. Like, the top one is before Rift Rivals. So, 1.5 CSD difference at 15 minutes. Early game doesn't really do a whole lot, and he's just kind of average.
Yeah.
And then after, now that he's changed his AD carries, he's actually been dominating in the laning phase together with Jesiz. Like, they've been getting big advantages. He's been part of many more kills in the early game because the team will play together as a unit and not just him sitting in a side lane on his own. And it's really benefited Fnatic.
And this split, absolutely it has. It's been huge for Fnatic to just find a way to do different things. And in the team fighting meta as well, it's going to suit them quite well as we get on to this early game. Of course, you mentioned all eyes on Broxah to see what he can get done. Talked about mid lane ganks, but what about up top?
Alphari doesn't want any eyes on Broxah. Early gank here, 235.
Gonna have flash up and available, instantly uses it, dodges out the cocoon. He'll be walking out of that one, but not with all of his summoner spells.
Maxlore is up here.
Okay, twisted advance, goes onto the Elise, gets the smash out. Now Alphari, he's throwing the standard. No, not enough. Flash followed by Maxlore. Still going to be first blood, picked up by Max. And now sOAZ under tower and Mini-Nard. Not much else he can do.
Oh, Maxlore predicting the path right there. So what Broxah did was he did his Raptor Cam into Red Buff into Rift Scuttler, probably running one experienced Quinn. So after he kills the Rift Scuttler, he gets level 3 so early. So he ganks before Alphari is already thinking about placing a ward because it's so much earlier than normally from the red side. But Maxlore was just around, and he just walked up there, and as soon as Alphari flashed away, you can see Alphari had not placed a ward yet. He wants to wait a little bit. Not expecting Broxah this early, and then, of course, as soon as he sees the engage, he's already playing it safe. And with Maxlore just nearby, taking the blast clone, Broxah not able to actually stay alive. Also, that sapling in the brush to get the extra damage on the second hit.
Yeah, with the smash. Looks like he just died. Not to red. No, it is to red.
Red buff, yeah.
Yeah.
Ends up getting him.
Useful buff to have, for sure. And they took a big bite at his sOAZ health bar. And
that's just so huge, Pyro, because Elise is supposed to get early kills. Not Maokai. God damn it, it's a Maokai. He just wants to scale. He doesn't want to do anything. And
well,
then he gets the
where it
first
needed
blood.
to be, Deficio. I mean, we had all eyes on Broxah, but Maxlore was tracking him. And he made the big play, so it's a good start for Misfits.
Yes, it is. Fantastic start for Misfits, and a lot of talk between the junglers before the game as well, who's actually the best. You know, Max was saying Broxah a little bit overrated before Rift Rivals. Broxah then saying, nah, you know what, Maxlore, he's not even close. He didn't say not even. He said he's not, you know, better than me right now. Don't want to, you know, don't want to put too much trash talk in there. Broxah is a very nice guy, very humble guy, but did say that Maxlore was not as good as him right now. I think Maxlore won the first little fight here.
Oh, there'll be many more in this series, and it might be in several lanes for sure. As you can see, Maxlore is actually going to be taking a trip through mid. So he comes up for a lane gank, but Caps, he's staying pretty safe, not too far forward, has both his summoner spells available. Shouldn't have too much trouble. However, there could be counter gank potential as Broxah is looking to come in. In the meantime, we're up top. sOAZ taking a lot of damage in Gnar, and Alphari flashless is forcing him back.
I wonder if sOAZ was trying to predict the EQ from Alphari with his jump, but then Alphari just didn't use it and actually saved it until after sOAZ had used his mobility, and therefore he lost the trade pretty hard. And great start for Misfits in the early game. First Elise gank was unsuccessful. Alphari is doing well in his lane. It's looking good for Misfits Gaming, and that's the kind of start you want when you make that like gamble, basically, where you first pick the Caitlyn and you give over a champion like Elise to the enemy team, especially someone like Broxah. When this is then what happens, you can almost say, oh, brilliant plan. The coach had figured it all out. Maxlore knew exactly where Broxah would be.
They've been holding pretty even in this lane, actually. It has been just dead on in the farm because Hansama and Rekkles both pretty well matched in their range, of course. But it does really speak to how well Misfits have been able to kind of adapt to this meta and predict things in the pick and ban phase, specifically up against Fnatic. It's hard to do that, and it's nice to see Misfits kind of growing. That's part of their year plan. They want to get cleaner, they want to get better, work their way into Worlds. And
I like to see Misfits also punish one of their standard things for Fnatic, which is the early gank from Broxah top lane. We see it very often. I'm not sure if they 100% knew he was going to gank this early, but the fact that Maxlore ended on top side with the blue buff and was actually ready to just walk over and take the blast cone could have been great scouting from their side, and obviously punish Broxah forward.
They ask him later, and he's like, oh yeah, I just kind of guessed.
Oh, he's going to be like, no, trust me. Massive brain right here.
Completely.
I read him like a book. I knew he would run with one experienced Quinn. He would go for that Rift Scuttler.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be the big difference maker in this early game, right? Because he is so far ahead, Broxah. It's matched on the levels. However, Maxlore has a little bit more items, a little bit more to work with. The Bomby Cinder completed for him. And now he's looking for a play on the mid lane while Broxah's heading up top to the right.
Broxah.
See if he gets a camp on.
Return gank. The problem for Broxah is the first time he showed up, he got a flash. Now he's waited so long with the follow-up gank to not fall behind in experience that now Alphari's flash is back up.
He might need it. Oh, there it is. The Cocoon sinks the Fangs in. He goes Demacia, and the standard comes down too late.
I want to see if Alphari's flash was ready just when that engage happened. Just off cooldown, but just didn't react in time when he saw that Cocoon from Broxah, and he ended up dying very quickly. Fnatic gets him revenge. Top lane was supposed to happen earlier. They get it right now.
A little bit more revenge, and sOAZ picking himself up a kill. Be able to keep nice and up in that farm game. Checking back in with the bottom, it's Hansama and IgNar that are pushing Rekkles, and Jesiz back for the time being. And of course, as a Caitlyn, you're going to be able to shove waves just as well as that AShe is going to be, but it is a very slow starting lane down there for the time being.
Yeah, when you play Tahm Kench in lane as well, you're not exactly going to bully the enemy team like the Trundle we saw earlier today. Could have been great to maybe set up a potential trap from Hansama to actually win that lane harder, but Tahm Kench can't really do that. So Alphari's flash is ready, but I think just the fact that Broxah is so close to him, he just simply cannot react fast enough. And as soon as you get hit by the Cocoon, you will die to that gang. You can actually see in the minimap, Maxlore was here again. He was ready. Had Alphari just stayed alive for a little longer, counter gank could have happened. And who knows, maybe it could have been 2-0 Misfits all of a sudden.
Could have, but as it stood, it was a cataclysmic failure. And Maxlore comes in, smites away the big Raptor from Caps, who was trying to get a few steals on. And ooh, PowerOfEvil, he fancied his chances, but Caps was ghosting out. So we're 8 minutes into this game right now, and it's pretty dead on even gold. The only imbalance was what happened up top to start things off, and of course, Broxah was able to help sOAZ even that out. And, well, Fnatic, they had that early game element, but they are still looking for scaling, and I think Misfits are doing the same thing, so this could very well go quite long.
Yeah, I mean, Misfits right now would love to sign an agreement with Fnatic that says for the next 20 minutes, we don't do anything. Farm, 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 just go full late game, then you get your righteous glories, and then you start just playing big team fights in the mid lane.
I used to play a game mode like that back in the StarCraft days, no rush 20 minutes. It was good times.
Was that really good times?
I mean, I broke it a lot.
That's all good. That's a bad thing.
There was no rule that actually enforced it. Just, you know, bad karma.
Yes.
I probably stacked up a lot of that.
That's why you're now a League of Legends caster, I guess. And not a StarCraft caster.
Woo! You know, I guess I need to stack up more bad karma. It's pretty good now.
I guess in the end, it actually worked out pretty well for you.
Fair enough. I am pretty bad at karma, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, let's see bot lane right now, because IgNar hit level 6, and I teased in the champ select. I want to talk about the Tahm Kench ulti with the Maokai. So Maokai ulti is obviously used as kind of follow-up engage. So what you can do with Tahm Kench is you can actually use his ulti extremely aggressive, like in the middle of the enemy team. You fly in with the Tahm Kench ulti, you have the Maokai in your belly, and you just show up right in front of the enemy backline with the Maokai. And from that Tahm Kench ulti, and Maokai, all he has to do is click W on a carry, and then suddenly you can't get away, and Fnatic will be forced to take the fight. They won't be able to escape once Maxlore is delivered by IgNar, because they obviously know that Alphari will follow up as well.
I mean, there's so many CC tools in that kit, too. If he throws on his ultimate as well, and those cats just catch you, there really isn't a whole lot of getting away, and well, PowerOfEvil's damage, Hansama's damage, that's going to start to get more and more real as this game goes on. We'll start waiting for those plays because, as you pointed out, IgNar, he loves to play these engaged supports. Can't do it quite as well on the Tahm Kench. You get to the back line, that doesn't matter.
Does not matter. Does mean, again, as we talked about, that Hansama won't like bully his lane as a Caitlyn. So,
it's fine, though.
You're not getting full value out of the Caitlyn right now as a first pick by not obviously taking that tower in the early game, but she still has a lot of value later on in the game as well.
And there is some raw power, right? He's still in this laning phase because he went back first, got his BF sword. It was matched by Rekkles picking up his early Zerker's Greaves, and of course that Caulfield. So like, yeah, that is pretty classic Rekkles. So that is a bit of a holding pattern lane, but there's plenty of other places for Misfits to get involved.
I think the whole rush tier 2 boots from Rekkles was great when he played like Kennen and these kind of things, where mobility was very key and just like pure attack speed. Because you wouldn't really rush like a BF sword anyway on a Kennen.
I mean, you were never going to do that much damage anyway.
Right, yeah, you want to go Blade, right? So I think it made a lot of sense there. On AShe, I'm not the biggest fan of it. A lot of your trading patterns in lane is based on like auto volley, ollie. Auto volley, auto is what I'm supposed to say. So you actually want more flat AD than anything. Like getting an early BF sword is great for AShe. And the T2 boots, while fine, will not be like a massive game changer for him.
Yeah, that's fair. Be able to two-step. Rekkles, of course, one of those AD carries known pretty well for his positioning and all things. And now let's take a step back while it's slowing down just a little bit and talk more about Fnatic and how they have improved. Because you talked about Rekkles pre and post Rift Rivals. The entire squad has definitely come up and playing more together, getting more involved in those kills together.
Yeah, so what's important to look at here is especially the part towards the right where it says kills with 3+ allies at 15 minutes. Now this is how often will Fnatic get a kill where they have 3 team members together or more. Before Rift Rivals, it was 1.5 only. That's a very low number. Actually, we do see a potential tower dive here, Pyro.
Well, sOAZ, he could be in trouble caught up on that route, and he's pinballed around. PowerOfEvil even spends the Petrifying Gauge.
So right there, you can actually see Misfits get one of those 3+ allies around for a kill.
Add one box.
Where they move 3 guys up to top lane. But as we were saying before here, Fnatic used to be very low in that department, like one of the lowest in the EU LCS, because there would be a lot of like 1v1, 2v2 kills. They were always going for 2v1 kills. After Rift Rivals, there's less kills in the early game for Fnatic, where they're just 1 or 2 guys. It's very often a big team play. Being it Rekkles and Jesiz moving to mid lane and making a play with caps, or being it like a TP play from sOAZ, where they're playing as a unit. That's what we're seeing now. It's way less about the individual outplays and much more about the team play and the team fights. That's been one of the big changes for Fnatic, and it's made them more consistent. Because they no longer just rely on getting kills to get advantages like it actually was a bit before. They just had to like have these really high kill games as well. Now they can definitely rely more on scaling with their team fighting composition.
Not the only ones that are able to do it, especially in this series, Misfits. There's a lot of trading here. Fnatic, they managed to take the first tower, so they got first brick. Misfits got a kill and then the tower right afterwards. And then Fnatic traded a dragon for a Rift Herald. Let's see where this where this play all started anyways, and we'll go back to how they won it and how they took it after that.
So what's happened right now is Misfits have taken over the top side in terms of just like pure vision control, and they've been pushing top lane 24/7. So it was just a matter of time before sOAZ would actually get jumped on. The fact they bring PowerOfEvil is just great. It guarantees the kill. They shut him down, and they know they're losing the bot lane side. But that's obviously why you make a cross-map play, and it's always a tough choice as a top laner. If you're sOAZ, do you go to the tower and get up and get the farm? Or do you say, you know what, there's a chance here, I'm not going to go to that tower? Well, what if they're not there? Then suddenly you're just wasting time. And it's hard as a top laner when you don't have any vision to make that choice of, do I go to that tower and risk dying, but keep up an experience? Or do I just stay back and play maybe overly safe for some of them?
I mean, it's hard to keep up an experience when you're dead. That's the unfortunate truth here.
That's the sad part.
Pulls it. Hansama, IgNar instantly denying any follow-up damage. Right on point with the Devour, and they're able to clear waves away. But Fnatic, they're still pretty relentlessly on this here. We're getting closer and closer to that 15-minute mark, but the gold has been incredibly even. I wanted to say before the replay, you know, who really won that trade overall? A kill, a Rift Herald, a tower versus first tower and the first dragon?
I mean, I think getting the Rift Herald means you actually end up winning that trade if you can use it to get that mid lane tower as well. It is still on IgNar, ready to be used, but this tower is full HP, and Fnatic have a lot of members around mid lane to try and defend against that potential Rift Herald. IgNar has not used it just yet. It needs some minions with him. You don't want to just send it in on its own.
Yeah, he's got some time now. We've definitely seen a lot of bad Rift Heralds in the EU LCS. We've seen some good ones too.
We've seen some really bad ones.
Yeah, there is a large Rift Herald discrepancy.
I'm pretty sure the worst one we saw was Trick, who thought it was a trinket ward that he was going to use to jump on Elise.
Put it in the dragon
pit. Put it in the dragon pit, and it was actually the Rift Herald. That definitely was the worst one.
Well, I mean, they need an extra trinket slot. Come on, that's not fair. If you're playing Lee Sin, you shouldn't be the one picking up the Rift Herald.
Oh, I was so confused when he did. I was like, wait a minute, was it timing out or something?
So that was a half-health tower out of the Rift Herald.
The problem is there's a lot of wave clear from an Orianna. So as soon as the wave shows up, if you can't actually force Orianna away from the tower, well, she will just kill the wave. And you're standing there trying to set up the Rift Herald meanwhile, and he ends up just charging in, or she ends up charging in. And yes, she gets some damage on tower, it's fine. Shockwave.
On to Hansama. IgNar was once again there with the Devour to keep him safe. That's 2 for 2 on this game.
But you can see what Fnatic are doing right now. They're saying, you know, we can win this mid lane despite you guys being 3 guys here. Caps is really strong. That was a great ulti from him to force Hansama back in base and trying to set up a Fnatic play. Maybe try an arrow on PowerOfEvil, force his cleanse, and then see if they can actually take that tower.
Might just be able to do it, but they're grounded for the time being.
So that's a Tahm
defending
Kench
in the mid, and they just keep on popping those Caitlyn traps. Tahm Kench has arrived, and so is Maxlore. PowerOfEvil playing very defensively here. He has the Abyssal Mask completed as his first item. He's had that for a few minutes now.
Oh, yeah, good point. We saw this in NA LCS as well. Because, you know, it used to be Abyssal Scepter you could rush, where you get some magic resistance in the early game and some AP. Well, that item really no longer works for these AP champions.
That didn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you have a Scepter give you magic resist?
Yeah, sure. That didn't make any sense either. So now it's a mask instead.
Yeah, which makes much more sense.
But the change right now for these guys is they are kind of sacrificing early game damage to then get the Catalyst still completed, which is great for the laning phase, but then also then get magic resist from this mask here. So you are actually setting yourself behind in terms of damage, but in the late game, when you get that % damage increase from the aura around the mask, it is actually fairly strong. I'm still a little bit on the fence with it. I know you want some early magic resist in that mid lane. The mask, it does give you great sustain, but it does set you a bit behind.
I mean, I feel like it was also kind of an adaptation to Broxah on this Elise with that extra magic damage he's got as well to start things off. Here come the Kittens, pushing Fnatic back, but Caps is looking to intercept right now. Oh, they throw the Cataclysm on top of him. Shockwave doesn't connect as well as he wants, and Maxlore is able to get the finishing blow. sOAZ in the back, looking for a Gnar, but he's not transformed just yet, and Hansama keeps pushing him back. Misfits have foiled the Fnatic plan for now.
Yeah, Misfits, they love this kind of composition. So many ways to start team fights, so many ways to lock down members from Fnatic. Being it Maokai or Jarvan, being it a Tahm Kench ulti coming in, Miasma follow-up from PowerOfEvil, so no one can get away. And suddenly Fnatic, if one member steps a little bit too far away from the rest of the team, he will get caught.
Oh, this is how it all happened. Jesiz started by holding the front line, but Fnatic, they got a little overconfident here.
They're basically calling to fight because PowerOfEvil still sitting in the bottom lane, but Caps is taking a weird flanking route as an Orianna.
I don't think he hit anyone with that.
And you also don't want to flank with Orianna. sOAZ took a longer route around because he was TPing to that ward as well in the mid lane. And coordination, a little bit off. instantly punished by Misfits.
Yeah, a little bit rough for him right now. Caps tried to write down the entire Misfits team in his caps now. It didn't work out.
Definitely did not work out.
PowerOfEvil, he did a lot of chip damage on that tower down in the bottom, but it has been all about the mid. We gotta love that ARAM meta. Not everyone has to show up for it, though.
It is what Misfits likes to do. Also, they are putting PowerOfEvil in the bottom lane right now, because even if it is 5-man mid, you can't ignore all the other lanes. You actually need to still maximize your farm on your carries and so on. So once PowerOfEvil pushes, if you can get a free tower, go for it. After, push the wave once more and then go mid lane with this Cassiopeia. You don't want to sit in the side lane for too long, so PowerOfEvil should just take this tower, kill this wave, and then he can look to maybe go in and join his team.
This kind of speaks to a point that we hit at the very beginning of the game, though, right? Like, Fnatic are a team that they certainly looked like they were cut above the rest of the competition in Europe, but it's been such an even game. There have been a lot of back-and-forth trades. And does that challenge that assertion somewhat for you, or is it just because it's a very early game and what's sure to be a late one? I
mean, first of all, Fnatic are playing against one of their top 6 teams in Europe, so I'm not expecting them to just run over them. It was a 2-1 series against Unicorns last week, where the first game was so even, Unicorns managed to win it in the end. I think we are seeing that, yes, Fnatic, while they might be the best team in Europe right now, it's not because they're just like miles ahead of the rest. It's not like the old G2 story where they wouldn't lose like a game in a year, basically, or a series in a year.
Or the 2015 Fnatic, yeah.
Or the 2015 Fnatic, good point as well. That's not the same from these guys. They are still, somewhat close with the rest of the top teams. They just tend to, in the end, actually have a few more tools to play around, a few more guys who can step up individually and make that big play when it matters, and then end up winning the entire series. And
they did start to hit some of those item spikes a little bit earlier, too, in this game. We didn't really talk about it earlier, but Rekkles having picked up his Essence Reaver sometime back at the Zeal immediately afterwards, and at the same time, sOAZ had gotten his big hammer as well, so he was able to dish out quite a lot of damage with the Frozen Mallet.
And this is a key point for Fnatic because they want Gnar to win the side lane split push, so they have pressure in one lane at least. And then when sOAZ pushes in his lane, he can then actually move towards his team and join for 5-on-5 teamfighting, or he can try and force Alphari to stay in the bottom lane. So Alphari can't join the team, because Alphari, of course, adds another big element of engage and backline dive. If he's stuck playing 1v1 against sOAZ for the entire game, well, then Gnar will win out. And that's a big advantage for Fnatic, but that's very hard to do. See what happens here.
Cool, but IgNar's the one that gets Gnar'd up against the wall. He's got his Grey Help, but instead he opts to flash. Ooh. As Alphari was nearly there, but abort mission for Misfits.
Yeah, IgNar did not want to stay and risk anything. Maxlore
flash and dash on in, and he throws down the kittens. Maxlore is caught out. Caps, Shockwave pulling in 3, but PowerOfEvil stepping forward to finish the shot with a Twin Fang. He takes down his opposite number.
That's second time now where Caps are staying far away from his team, and he gets punished instantly by the engage on the side of Misfits. First one was him trying to flank. This time around, he was just staying in the mid lane. Broxah not getting caught for now.
Alphari, he goes Cataclysmic.
That's the angry ulti. You know you're not going to get anything, but you're just angry at someone.
So you just have to dunk.
You just have to use it. Like, it's right there, man.
Yeah, low enough cooldown. Going to be able to justify that, suppose, unless they want to fight immediately after. But once again, this gold is so dead even. We have both Mountain Drakes this game, split between the two teams. The really only thing separating them is the fact that Fnatic have one more outer turret because they've been playing the side lane just a little more effectively.
Very true, and as we talked about before with sOAZ, one of the reasons it's hard to avoid teamfights in this meta is because when you play against something like this Jarvan, if sOAZ at any moment gives up the pressure in that side lane, Jarvan has a window where he can go join his team with teleport or roam. And what happens so often is that when sOAZ gives up his pressure, the 4-man group in the mid lane for Fnatic needs to back away, but they don't. They stay, they just kind of take one more wave, and then suddenly they get engaged on. It happens for every team in Europe super, super often. It's something to track in this one. Right now, Fnatic's in a good spot, because Gnar is pushing all the way down to that tier 2 tower in the bottom lane. He's trying to keep Alphari from leaving, meaning the 4-man group of Fnatic right now can actually just hold the mid lane and sOAZ can get a bit of damage on bot lane tower. He's just playing 1v1. Eventually he will get this tower as well, and this is how Fnatic can keep kind of having an advantage just in the pure 1v1.
And also Fnatic know where the Misfits are, right? They have vision placed in pretty crucial places, just in this mid, just in the entrances to the Misfits jungle, and that's something else that Fnatic improved at. We talked about Rekkles and team post-Rift rivals, but they also have gotten better at warding.
Exactly, they actually can finally spot where Misfits is. Now the way for Misfits to engage without the Jarvan is that Tahm Kench ulti, where you deliver the Maokai into the backline of Fnatic. But
still waiting for it.
There's no TP from Alphari, and he can't leave the bot lane because he's getting pushed down. So right now Misfits can't actually fight. They have to just accept that sOAZ is putting pressure in one lane, and Fnatic are just holding mid lane right now.
Well, Alphari needs a little bit more time.
Also, Fnatic right now, they should have gone in and cleared out a lot of these control wards here in the river from Misfits, because they have TP on sOAZ. Like, Misfits don't want to fight them. It's going to be 4v5. So Fnatic should not be afraid to kill all these control wards and these wards you see in here from Misfits Gaming and just take over the Baron area.
I feel like they're giving a lot of respect right now to Misfits, even in a 4-man fight. I mean, PowerOfEvil
too much respect.
Is still, he's got the Seraph's Embrace finish, but his damage is not huge with the Abyssal Mask.
Exactly.
So I am actually a little surprised here that Fnatic are kind of gun-shy. Hans Sama, he's only sitting on the static shiv. He's got wave clear, but he's not got an Naiad yet.
I mean, Fnatic also just lacking control wards in the inventory. They barely have anything they actually can place. So not only do they not kill the enemy control wards, they also can't place anything on their own. sOAZ has now moved to mid lane to tell his team, guys, leave the mid lane, go into the river, kill the wards, please.
Designated ARAM time is over.
I mean, it is for now until Alphari's TP is ready, and then it's back on the menu, boys.
Yep. One thing I definitely want to point out as the gold has come up here is the difference between the junglers. That's one of the starker ones for me, because Maxlore on that early start really did help kind of propel this Misfits squad ahead in this game. Not that Broxah hasn't had an impact. He's not fallen incredibly hard behind, but they chose this to have the early game component to this team.
But he has fallen behind in terms of champions. One champion excels in the early game, Elise. One champion excels in the late game, Maokai. So when the Maokai is 3-0-1 after the early game, it doesn't matter they're even in gold. That's a big advantage. Here's the Tahm Kench with the Maokai.
Might add one more. Instantly, Caps flashes out, throws the command attack. So Misfits, they're not able to make anything happen here, but Caps is out 2 summoners as he threw the Ghost down as well.
Yeah, so he flashes that one. That means now next time Ignar's ulti is ready, in 75 seconds, exactly the same play can happen, and this time Caps can't get away.
Start your timers, ladies and gentlemen. See what Gnar is able to do that next time around, and Caps better watch his back if he wants to be on those side lanes.
It's Caps now.
Yeah, is it Caps?
Caps.
Caps.
Can't get away.
Is that the Danish pronunciation?
Nope, that would actually just be Caps.
Oh, okay.
Or Caps.
I guess there's multiples.
I mean, it depends on where you're from.
Oh, that's fair.
I'm from the farmer side.
Wonder where Caps.
I actually think he is from near Copenhagen, I believe.
Okay, so he would be Caps.
Yes.
Glad we established that one.
The non-farmer side. There are only 2 sides in Denmark, the farmer side and the non-farmer side.
Well, that's easy enough, I suppose. All right, so this is pretty easy dragon take for Fnatic. Means they'll be able to get themselves a little bit in and out of fights faster, thanks to having that Air Drake. Of course, it means Misfits were able to establish some vision control down the mid. Still haven't knocked down that tower. Remember, that's the big difference in the objectives game right now.
They're still okay, though, because, again, they're kind of happy scaling. They're like, Hans Sama, you want to get 3 items before we do anything? Sure, that's a deal. Maokai, you want to get stronger than the Elise? Great, that's a good deal as well. So, not losing, not getting that mid lane tower doesn't really hurt Misfits. It actually only hurts Fnatic that the game is so slow.
Well, they're going to start this. sOAZ has got TP, and he's going to need to use it. Misfits with that one Mountain Drake. They're starting to shred through the Baron. In comes the teleport. Throws down the miasma. Misfits, they decide to stop short, but they got the teleport out of sOAZ.
Oh, Caps is hiding right here with the ball.
Throws it out, comes back. Just trying to flank with it here. Misfits in a tense situation means they're probably going to lose out on this mid-tier 2. So Fnatic take advantage of the fact that they had Misfits shoved off to one side.
Yeah, Misfits did not manage to actually turn and get a fight. They did get the TP, which was part of the reason they actually rushed down that Baron to force sOAZ to use that global ulti, but global teleport. However, the fact they actually didn't get any turnaround fights mean they lose a tower for their troubles.
Yeah. And for Fnatic, you know, they invested that teleport and still managed to get a tower for themselves. And you talked about them not needing to get all the kills to play the game. Well, I'm sure they're pretty happy about that.
But now if you're Fnatic, you're actually forced to keep sOAZ with you and then be ready to stop Misfits, because Misfits can just put Alphari bot lane and start the Baron again. If sOAZ is down there to match Jarvan, start the Baron as Misfits. Instantly. You get a 4v5 situation, heavily in their favor. So Misfits are still in a great spot. And again, Fnatic's composition, while there is some good scaling on their side, I don't think it's as strong as Misfits with their team here with Maxlore on his Maokai compared to Broxah and Elise.
And it's such a comfortable composition for Misfits too. We've been saying it over and over again because teams allow them to constantly draft this style, and maybe taking away a couple of clutch picks like the Kalista for Hans Sama was part of the strategy. But first off, even if you have Syndra against PowerOfEvil, this guy's going to go nuts on any kind of mage you give him. But there is the AShe arrow onto Gnar, no follow-through damage.
Broxah is not even close. He's actually at the Raptor camp, so no one really wanted to follow through here.
Does, though. He's going to have Mega in just a moment. He gets a 3-man Gnar, but Gnar instantly swallowing up the Caitlyn once again. He has been clutch at getting that protection on. However, he can't protect Alphari, and the kittens are coming a little bit too late. Jesiz is going to get grounded. That's one quick pickup for Fnatic. Do they fancy the chances to keep on moving?
All right, sOAZ with that follow-up engage. Managed to secure 1 kill for his team. They might actually look to try and go for Baron here. Let's see. A lot of members on the side of Misfits with full HP. Ulti still ready for PowerOfEvil as well. Fnatic though, 4v5.
Scouting around this Baron pit, making sure they've cleared all the vision they possibly can. They are not going to start it just yet. They know they have the number advantage, but as soon as Alphari comes back up, he has teleport available. Gnar face checking in immediately to the boomerang. PowerOfEvil going forward, but Jesiz has got the unbreakable on, and a lot of Caitlyn traps come out there.
Yeah, and it's really hard for Fnatic to engage here because Gnar is just sitting ready with Devour next to PowerOfEvil. Rekkles' ulti is up now, but again, if you don't hit the Tahm Kench, you'll just Devour whoever you actually do hit.
Yeah, gotta be careful. Sama already a little bit low here, but it's in Misfits' best interest to stop these backs because there's a massive wave of minions approaching on the bottom tier 2. Thank you very much, observers, for showing us that one in full.
And Alphari, he's back alive. He can actually rush straight towards the Baron with his team if they see sOAZ in the bottom lane. They see him now, right there, meaning Misfits once again get control of mid lane, should get control of the river near that Baron as well, because sOAZ, no teleport, he can't really get away from that lane.
He's in Mega right now, just clearing away those minions. However, Caps, Jesiz, Rekkles, they're all in full sight, but Misfits heading for the Baron. They will be able to clear away Scuttle Vision at the very least. In comes Broxah. Would this be a 5v4 smite fight? sOAZ is running for this. Also, Sama right now sitting with fairly low mana, not full HP. He probably has a lot of gold as well. Yeah, 2,000 for Caitlyn, 1,000 for the rest of Misfits. So they want to just go back and spend all of it, meaning sOAZ did not get punished for going bot lane. All right. So, Baron fight did not happen, but that does not mean it won't very, very soon. Fnatic, they take control of the Baron area. However, Jez is backing in full sight. The Caitlyn traps on all around the way. Misfits, they're going to be able to get back nice and healthy now is Sama on this Caitlyn.
Everyone agreed to just recall and reset the entire map. We got Mountain Drake in 1 minute 30 seconds. Baron is still alive 30 minutes into the game. So tense because both teams are kind of just constantly looking at each other around that mid lane. One team makes a mistake, you lose a fight, you lose Baron, and the game is most likely over.
Yeah, a huge, Sama instantly swallowed up, and he dodges out the house here. sOAZ coming through the Ashe arrow is going to nail IgNar, but there's no follow through for Fnatic, and all of a sudden, that's one ultimate burned.
Yeah, once again, Fnatic cannot really rely on Rekkles and his arrows, because there is Tahm Kench, there is Cleanse on the side of Misfits, so it's probably going to be more about sOAZ actually trying to find the engage, follow up by a Jesiz, coming in with the Braum, or a Shockwave from Caps. Right now, sOAZ has been doing his best to actually control the side lane, roam in to join his team. He's been very active. He's been the guy kind of forcing some plays. But Misfits are still happy just scaling.
Well, it's happened. Alphari's been perfectly happy just stacking up some minions of his own. He had the Gargoyle Stone Blade from a while ago. And he's big enough to be able to clear away waves. He just doesn't want to take that one-on-one. And you can see Misfits are just so keen on investing in vision across the board now after this.
And I like that adaptation from Alphari because he knows this is not about him 1v1ing sOAZ in the side lane. He goes, don't matter here. He needs to just join his team and team fight. So that's why he's rushing that Stone Plate before he even gets his upgraded Tiamat or Titanic. And he just says, you know what, I just need to be a tank.
Yeah, and we actually haven't even seen Misfits with the full team fighting execution yet. We haven't seen that big Kittenclism coming out. They've kind of been reacting a lot of the times to Fnatic's making plays. One on the board. Yeah. I want to see more, and the later this game goes, the more deadly it will be. Especially with the Cassiopeia versus an Orianna.
I mean, you just want to see one of these full-blown team fights where the Righteous Glory from Maxlore can also be impactful to actually get onto that back line of Fnatic. Caps is a man I'm looking at on the side of Fnatic specifically because it's very hard as an Ashe in late game fights against a lot of tanks in the front line and a Jarvan ulti to actually consistently sit there and deal enough damage. So often it's about like your mid laner. And if it is an Orianna, like one big shockwave, it can just change the entire fight. So Caps is one I'm really looking at here to carry a fight for Fnatic. And not specifically Rekkles, who's on this utility champion that is getting countered by the enemy support.
As long as Caps doesn't decide to try and flank on his own anymore. I think
no more of that, no more of that.
Yeah. We can't quite pull that one off as easily. So now Misfits, they're moving 5 to the mid. sOAZ is still in the bottom, but this time he has his teleport. However, he's already gone into Gnar. Misfits fully establishing vision here. There is one blue trinket that Rekkles has available to use to try and spot them out. Looks like he hasn't popped it down just yet. But he will send out the Hawk Shot to make sure that Misfits aren't sneaking this one on. Now, sOAZ still pushing in the bottom means Alphari's going to have to go and meet him. And it's still a holding pattern in the mid lane.
Again, if you are Misfits, like if you start the Baron, you might force a teleport and potentially get your team fight. This again is like kind of the worst case scenario for Misfits. When sOAZ is allowed to just sit and split push, because that is really where Fnatic has that big advantage. But their 5-on-5 team fighting should be in Misfits' favor at this point.
Yeah, execution for Misfits. I mean, we've seen them play pretty solidly throughout this game, but sometimes great execution involves just actually going for it. You have to take risks every now and again, otherwise Fnatic will take advantage. They got 3 more towers as a result, Deficio. Oh, Maxlore's caught in the pit. That's fine. Baron does not hurt him. He is a big tree.
He's a Maokai.
Yep.
Weird,
with the Gargoyle Stone Blade.
Weird looking tree for now.
I mean, he is at a slumber party.
With
in his cat pajamas.
Cat pajamas.
They are the cat's pajamas, actually.
Sure. With long cats flying around later.
It's a weird skin.
All right, teams, come on. You are allowed to fight each other. It would be cool. At this point, with 35 minutes into the game almost, the Baron has not died even once. The Gargoyles, Stone Plates on Misfits have not been used. There actually might be a fight here, but good old Tahm Kench.
All right, IgNar, he does get the save off. Teleport coming in a little bit late. IgNar does get his gray health on. The rest of Misfits are mobilizing. And no fight.
And you can see Fnatic, they want to fight. They're trying. But IgNar ruins the day every single time on this Tahm Kench. And Misfits are just extremely passive themselves, despite actually having a comp that could force these team fights. They have not, opted into any kind of risks and just play super safe.
I feel like it's a scaling trap. It's like, guys, we had the late game. No matter what we do, we just cannot fight just yet. And then they look at the clock and it's like, oh, it's 35 minutes.
Look at the sOAZ flank.
Yeah, oh, here we go. Hold on, he's almost got Mega himself. There's a nice stun here. sOAZ. PowerOfEvil's got to watch himself. Oh, a big Gnar throws them all back. There's flashes flying. And in come the Kittens once again. And now the Jarvan's in front, but a Shockwave pulls in too. Maxlore a little low. Alphari taken down by Rekkles. And Fnatic, they jumped on this one. And Misfits, they were out 3 members. Just like that.
Yeah, Fnatic just punished Misfits for sitting there and looking at them. PowerOfEvil, he stepped forward, he got tagged by the Braum, and then suddenly sOAZ appears. They might even try and kill IgNar.
He's got no more gray health. They're going to shred through him like it was Swiss cheese. There's holes all through it. Fnatic, they're tearing through the base of Misfits now, and it looks like we thought we were going to have one big fight, but it was one big catch in Fnatic's favor that looks like it might end it here.
It almost looked too easy as well. Just singling out PowerOfEvil first suddenly means Misfits are not using their engage comp at all, and Fnatic, that is rushing straight down for the Nexus.
What else can you do? It's 36 minutes into the game. Hansama, the only defender, and he's out as most of his health bar, has to wander back to that fountain. So Fnatic, one big play for them is going to end it all, and once again, this team just looks a cut above the competition as they take a 1-0 lead in the series.
But this is also just where there's just this giant question mark, for me, of like, yes, Fnatic, they tried to force plays. The Tahm Kench denied it. sOAZ played really well on this now. I want to give him full credit for that, but you're 35 minutes into the game, and the team is with Jarvan, Maokai, Tahm Kench to start team fights against an Orianna AShe. And Misfits are just spending so much time doing absolutely nothing. So you end up getting this really weird team fight at the end with PowerOfEvil getting caught out, and he's basically out of the fight from the get-go, and then suddenly Fnatic just win the entire game. And you want to be like, wow, that was a great macro move by Fnatic, sick late game shot calling, but a lot of it was also just like Misfits just really not doing anything at all.
I wonder if Misfits just let themselves get a little bit intimidated by the team they were facing off against. I mean, it's hard to tell because it just seems so strange. Maybe they want to toggle off the name tags for game 2.
I mean, the thing is, of course, with Fnatic standing there with 4 members all the time, you can't just like rush straight at them under 2 turrets. But starting the Baron, when Alphari is stuck in the split push against sOAZ, and you have multiple guys who can like tank the Baron, especially the Maokai, just to force the teleports into a fight, like that's a better play than just hovering around for another 5 minutes and not even looking to start a fight. Because Fnatic had their mid lane tower alive, still at 35 minutes. And I think in the end, Misfits just kind of missed out on the fact that IgNar was back in base, and PowerOfEvil stepped forward and he just got caught and died.
That wasn't even the only timing they missed, right? Like we talked up a lot the Tahm Kench delivering the Maokai, and it happened once, and then Caps was never on a side lane again, and they just never tried it again. I mean, they could have ganked the teleport itself. They could have gotten sOAZ. Maybe they would have given up a Baron. Maybe that wouldn't have been great, but anything's better than not doing anything.
I mean, yeah, you can obviously... There's a lot of things I think you can do when you run with Engage, like on the side of Misfits, and a lot of it came down to like get Alphari out of that side lane to actually join his team, but in the end, if you're not being proactive with your teamfight comp, well, a mistake can happen in the late game and the game might be over. And that's what we saw right here from Misfits' side. sOAZ did a fantastic job on this Gnar in this game here. And, in the end, Fnatic win that one big crucial team fight.
Yeah, I think Misfits will have to go back to the drawing board. Like the draft on both sides, but you need to be able to execute it, and in the end, Fnatic got the win after a great engage from sOAZ. So let's send it over to Shox for the full story.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Not gonna lie, it wasn't the most explosive game that I've ever seen in my life, and it was really nice to see how Fnatic, in the end, closed it out, but we can't help but be a bit disappointed at the lack of engages coming out of Misfits. I want to take a look at picks and bans. Splice, you guys just played with the Maokai jungle and seem to have some trouble to engage. How do you think the Maokai works in this Misfits composition, Sankooks?
I think in general, it's a bit better if you're like the secondary kind of engage, so they still have Jarvan that can kind of go in first, but I think, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm too big fan of the Tahm. Like, sure, it counts as AShe, but you go in and then you eat your tanks out and then you walk out again and then you have someone standing in there all alone and then your carry is just going to get run over by Elise and Gnar. So I'm not too sure in terms of the team fighting if I like Tahm with this.
Mickey, what would you like to have seen? Is Tahm okay? Would you have liked to see another support come out?
I mean, they banned Trundle and Bard against it, and they first picked Braum. And Thresh was already out before, so I think Tahm is a decent pick because it's kind of a 50-50 matchup with Braum.
What about a Rakan for engage, possibly?
I would say that Braum is pretty good against Rakan because you can kind of block, if Rakan engages, Braum can just jump in and block all the incoming damage that his team is going to put out. So I would maybe pick Rakan if I needed a lot of engage. We end with Orianna. Actually, no. Nah, I wouldn't pick Rakan here.
Well, no, you can just say that. Tahm Kench was fine.
Tahm Kench was fine. I think one pick on the opposite side of the rift that worked very well, the Elise. It was one of the picks we talked about that you could use to snowball lanes very early on against tanks. Try and get the game started before the tanks get online. We want to take a look at how Fnatic tried to utilize this. As Broxah tries to gank top lane twice, the first time is not as successful because it's a good read out of Alphari and Maxlore that this is coming. Alphari sidesteps, doesn't have to use his flash there at all, and ends up going in aggressively, and they punish Broxah. So from this point, Fnatic kind of have to double down on making another play topside. They need sOAZ and Broxah to be ahead. Otherwise, this tank frontline is going to be too difficult to deal with in team fights. And it's just a case of waiting out on the top side. They catch Alphari and get ahead. And this is one of the things that allowed sOAZ to go over to the side lane and actually drag Misfits across the map.
That it did. In the end, would you still, for Elise, is it still too risky because you know that things like this can happen and the enemy jungler in this case can get too far ahead? And
no, I wouldn't say Elise is risky in that sense. I think, unfortunately, it wasn't an Elise, but we've seen, like, H2K versus Splice Game 1, you can snowball if you have a lead. I don't think it's that risky. It's still a fine pick.
Right, and in the end, that was all square. It was a very slow game, and then Misfits, they didn't do a lot. And Fnatic was just trying to do things. And Sankooks, I want to have you take a look at this replay by Caps, because Caps, even though his positioning wasn't ideal, but I feel like he was under the pressure. He really wanted to make something happen.
I think he could have made something happen, though. I think he just walked into them where he could have put his ball. Like, sure, Cash is coming from bot side, but he still has flash up. But now he just kind of ends up being a frontline Orianna when Elise is in the backline and Gnar is not even there. So it's not the most optimal position for Orianna, but I guess it's a misplay of Mr. Caps already knows.
And the same thing happens again here because as Caps is trying to get to the fight, he actually comes across Vision in his mid lane on his own against the Tahm Kench. And this looks like it could be a bad play out of Misfits because Maxlore, he looks to be on his own, but suddenly the rest of the team regroup. Fnatic actually get denied by this Maokai ultimate, and Caps ends up dying in a team fight again with not having impact.
Yeah, what it does signal to me is that Fnatic really wanted to fight all the time because I think they sense that Misfits are being passive, and that has been something that they've been struggling with for a while, but they're always running into Tahm Kench, and we're going to take a look at the next replay. Mickey, if your AD carry is playing AShe and this keeps happening, how do you keep him calm and say, hey, dude, maybe just
it's okay, you get him next time.
It's not double lift, so obviously he's not going to hit him all.
Yeah, like, I'm not used to AShe hitting arrows as well, from my experience.
Wow. Wow. A little bit of flame on Kobe,
but it
was
hard against Tahm Kench.
It wasn't the AShe in the end of all things, as you said, very hard against Tahm Kench. It was sOAZ on this Gnar actually finding PowerOfEvil out of position, easily able to then start this fight. And from here, Fnatic is still ahead. There's no real damage output. Hanshammer at this point has 2,300 gold in his inventory. He needs to have that money into his fourth item, which is why he can't shred through these tanks. And suddenly, Misfits completely on the back foot in that team fight.
Yeah, and I have to credit Fnatic for just trying to find the solutions in that game. It didn't work with the Caps flank. It didn't work with the arrows, so then they decided to just send sOAZ in. But I can't help but be a bit disappointed about Misfits because them being passive is what we've seen from them kind of the entire split, not pulling the trigger. Do you think that's something they can overcome by the time well, now in this game preferably, but by the time playoffs comes, then Cook.
I mean, sure, but you also kind of need to play comms that kind of relies on you being a bit more proactive. I think this game they had the Tahm, right? And they want to play to get mid pressure and then use the Tahm ult towards side lanes, but then I never really saw them do that ever in the game, and they never really shot that down. And I'm not sure, like, they can look for engages, but then you run into an Orianna ball, and then that might hit like 3 people, and then you get the shockwave, and then Fnatic is actually going to win the fight because they have a Braum that can go and stun everybody, and then they have the AShe who can just free hit. So I don't know. I don't think they need to play the game much faster. I just think they need to have a bit of a plan of what they're doing, because they wasted their TP in the end, and that's actually why they group up for the fight in mid. But that's not really, like, they want to have the TP so they can at least match the Gnar, because I think it was a bit greedy by Fnatic to go for the fight, because they could have also just split pushed, and then they would have had the free Nash pretty much.
To me, this playstyle is not going to work against better teams than you. It worked in one game against Splyce, where you just say, okay, we're going to do nothing, and then maybe you make a mistake and we engage. But as you say, without Misfits being active on the map, you are not creating your own opportunities. You are not punishing your enemy just in an even game. They're not going to beat Fnatic playing like this. Got to be a little bit faster in my estimation.
All right, then let's see what happens. And if they make an adjustment, Fnatic are a top team and showed it in Game 1. We will see if they can take the series when we return.
Up here.
Okay, Twist advance, goes on to the Elise, gets the smash out. Now Alphari, he's throwing the standard. No, not enough. Flash followed by Maxlore. Still going to be first blood.
Oh, my bad.
Fnatic back with captures with the intercept right now. Oh, they throw the Cataclysm on top of him. Shockwave doesn't connect as well as he wants, and Maxlore is able to get the finishing blows. And in come the Kittens once again, and now the Jarvan's in front, but a Shockwave pulls in too. Maxlore a little low. Alphari taken down by Rekkles, and Fnatic, they jumped on this one, and Misfits, they were out 3 members. One big play for them is going to end it all, and once again, this team just looks a cut above the competition as they take a 1-0 lead in the series.